Good morning and welcome to Thursday in the Successful Salon Team Training Room. I am here with Ken. Good morning.
Hey. I just realised I got my good morning t-shirt on, but it also says good morning Vietnam underneath. So just in case Vietnam's watching, like they do.
Ian might be in Vietnam. Have you noticed?
Oh, it'd be in Vietnam today, yeah.
Yeah, he messages every day from a different country. It's hilarious. I love it. So we're not in Vietnam, we're in England.
Yeah, but, sadly.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm enjoying it. Are you?
Well, as you said when I dialed into you this morning, I'm looking rather brown. The weather here has been fantastic because I was lucky enough to have a holiday in January. I get in the garden late afternoon every day. It's a little sun trap. So my tan's just been topping up. So when I do eventually get back to work, everyone will just think I've been sitting on my bum in the sun all day long. Hey ho, I can live with that.
No evidence of you working, so it's fine.
Actually, so I do this thing in 365 yesterday, every day, the news at Ken. And I didn't do it yesterday because I put up some posts about other things. And someone sent me a message saying, where's the news at Ken? And you kind of think, it's really nice that people, because it's like you do this and you think, is anybody watching? And then someone said, where's the news at Ken today? And I thought, oh, someone actually missed it. So it is worth doing this stuff. I think people just like to stay in contact with someone.
Yeah.
And we're all in the same boat. We're all talking about the same stuff. But it's nice sometimes just to have, people that know me. They say, oh, it's just nice to hear you again. And it's really nice, isn't it? That
fix.
I'm a great believer in, well, the way we work in 365. And there's loads of coaching out there that's all done online. And I think there's an absolute place for that. But I also still firmly believe there's a place for that where you work with people in person as well. You know that because you and I have been doing that together for years. And I think that's where that takes them back to that space when they were actually with you and talking to you. So I think there's a place for all of this stuff. And when we come out of this, you and I can see different ways we're going to do stuff. But I still firmly believe there will be that interactive face-to-face stuff as well, because it has an absolutely different impact.
Oh.
Absolutely different. You and I, that I can get you for God's sake, Jen, well, and I can't. It's not the same. It's not the same like this, is it?
No.
You can escape.
Well, yeah.
I said to someone yesterday, someone put up something, and I said, Ronnie, I said, what can you hear me saying in your ear? Because of course he can't. They go, oh God, I can hear what you would be saying, and it's important. Anyway, today, what we doing today?
Let's talk about, so Ken did a Zoom call. He actually calls us the Zoomers now. He did a really cool Zoom. I thought Wednesday was Tuesday. I'm cracking up this week.
I know. The week just goes by, doesn't it? It's Thursday, and of course it's bank holiday tomorrow.
Is it?
So won't it be nice to stay at home for the day?
Oh yeah. So we did a Zoom call the other day, 10 of us from 365, and it was lovely. It was so lovely to see everyone's faces, not just typing out on a keyboard. It was and to hear everyone's voices, it really lit me up for the day. I really enjoyed it. But your presentation was really, really good, and actually I've been a little bit on the fence with the whole, what are we doing? How does it look like when we come out? Because I don't have the facts, and I'm a very factual. In fact, you taught me that, act on facts, not emotion.
Absolutely. And actually, even today, I picked up the newspaper today, and they're talking about stuff, and you just think, oh, for God's sake, this is just speculation. So straight away, I get an email from someone going, oh, well, when's this happening? I'm going, it's not happening. It's just speculation. So you have to be really careful. And I'm glad I taught you that, because there are times when I know, I've said to my members, you think sometimes I'm sitting on the fence. I'm not sitting on the fence. I'm just not going to tell you something until I know it's a fact. Yeah. Otherwise, people they make plans built around speculation.
Yeah.
You know, like they go, oh, this is happening in Germany and this is happening in Ireland, and you think, yeah, but it's not happening here.
No.
Worry about what's happening here. When Boris tells us what we can do, then we can all cope with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hadn't done an awful lot in terms of, me and Chloe had some conversations about what we think could happen and what it would be good to have in place in a list, so that we can go bang, bang, bang and just get everything done and dusted when we know what we're doing. But actually, your presentation made my list a lot more in depth and more detailed, and it stopped me having to do the thinking. Which I really loved. You did the thinking for me.
I did the thinking for you. Okay.
And then just spoon fed me and it was done. So yeah, thanks for that. But I'd love you to share that with the guys.
As I said at the beginning of the presentation, and actually we'll share that today, but we've got kind of like half an hour. And as you know, we spent over 2 hours on it. And there's now another group of people, Zoomers too, they're going to be, who want to do it again. And I shared it more on our members page yesterday. But really what I was trying to do was just to give you all the areas to focus on, the areas to think about. I can never and should never tell you what to do. What I can do is tell you what to think about. At the end of the day, you can decide to do whatever you want. It's just like, I don't know if any of you saw the post about this woman in Texas that opened her salon because she said, oh, well, I can't close my salon. How am I going to feed my children? Yeah. Well, the Texan authorities decided that she's going to spend the next 7 days in jail thinking about that, right? And you kind of think, people can do whatever they want to do, but all we can do is make people think about what they should think about. So what I did was talk about 5 key areas of focus for your business. So do you want me to pull up the presentation and I'll talk through it?
Yeah. Ken's going to go into your text for a moment.
Yeah. And I won't be able to see you. So if you want me to get back to my screen, you may have to talk me back on how I do it on StreamYard, but we'll see what happens. So share screen.
I love this.
Do you? Yeah. I'm clicking it.
How'd you do that?
It's bloody happening. Now it's not showing me my screen, it's showing me your screen.
Oh, is it? It shouldn't.
Yeah. Let's go share my entire screen. I'll click on it and see what happens. Maybe if I come down. What can you see now, Jen?
Just me and you.
So that's no good, is it?
I don't know. It's quite
Well, let's say that's not what people are expecting to see. Let me try again. Share. So I've hit. Now what are you looking at?
There we go. Now we're looking at your screen and me and you small on the side.
So if I click down, will my PowerPoint come to the top?
Yep.
Can you see me standing on a beach now?
Yep.
Okay.
I love that photo.
I know, that's my son's wedding. Could it be any better?
No.
Absolutely glorious. Okay, so you've now got my PowerPoint, yeah?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so let's click into that. So, and then hopefully it'll go through. Okay, is that moved on your screen?
Yep.
Right, good. Okay, so what I went through, and I'm going to go through this quickly, and then you can put it apart later, or it's just to make people think that there are some real challenges that we need to focus on at the moment. And I'm not here talking about, I'm not going to look at the stuff like where do you get your sanitizers from and your gloves and all that sort. That's not it. This is the brain set. This is the thinking that you've got to think about. So there are 5 real key challenges you've got to think about. The first one is the safety of your guests. And I'm going to go into these in detail. So I'll just flick through them quickly, and then we'll break them down a little bit further. So your first area of focus is the safety of your guests, because they are your responsibility, or should be your responsibility. The next one is the safety of your team. There's a 2-way process there, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But as an employer, you have a duty of care not only to your customers, but also to your team. And that's really, really important. The one that's easy to forget is yourself. And actually, if you don't take care of yourself and you get this horrible virus, then your business will be in trouble as well. So you've got to think about yourself in this process. Then there's your relationships. And by that, by relationships, what I mean is the relationships you have with the other businesses that make your business function. So your business relationships, your suppliers, your landlords, your power suppliers, all those sort of people that you have a business relationship with. And the last area of focus was the safety of your business. Okay, so the long-term safety of your business. So with me so far, Jen?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, if anybody, can you see people's questions or not?
Yep, I can. So I'll stop you and ask if there's any coming in.
Okay, great. So if there's anything people want, to ask about, then you just tell me, because all I can see is my screen. Okay, so let's look at that a bit more in detail. Firstly, you've got the safety of your guests, and you've got to realize that that starts before they even come back through your door. Those guests, customers, clients, call them whatever you may, and in 365, as you know, we call them guests. Those people are going to be nervous. And I shared yesterday with the group that actually, if I think about me and Jane goes out now to the supermarkets. I haven't been anywhere apart from out from a walk every day and inside this building for 6 weeks. And there is a slight apprehension about going out. There is a slight apprehension I will have about going into buildings and meeting people. So we need to reassure people before they even come back into your business that you are going to take care of them and that their safety is paramount. We started this in 365. As you know, we produce posters for people, and we also produced a post-COVID sort of health and safety strategy for people to either share with their teams themselves or with their customers. So these documents are available to 365 members. But you saw, Jen, on my members page last night, some of our salons have already got that poster on the left up in their window. They've had it printed off, it's big, so that before your customers even come into your building, they know that you are taking care of them. And that reassurance is really important. Fear is in the mind. You've spoken a lot about this with people in your presentations over the last few weeks. The mindset, the fear is in the mind. So we need to reassure our guests before they come back into you that they are safe in your premises. And the more they can see you're doing, the better. So if we get down to this sanitization of PPP options, we're not going to go into that in detail, because whether you've got to wear a screen, a mask, or whatever, whether you're going to hang plastic partitions or not, is entirely up to you, or will be down to the guidelines that Boris gives us at the weekend. The real thing here is customers need to be reassured that you're doing this. And the best way to do it is do it physically in front of them. Let them see what you're doing. Don't do things on the quiet, cutie, whatever. Don't just tell people stuff is sanitized. Show them that it's sanitized. The more they see going on, the better. I loved Robert's right at the beginning of this whole period. You will remember, Jen, that Robert showed in their salon the tools that are used on every client are sanitized and then wrapped in cling film. So the brush is going down in front of the guest and unwrapped in front of the guest. And I think it's touches like that that are going to set the good guys apart and that are going to reassure the customers. So what we have to do legally is one thing. What you could do to make yourself different to anybody else is those extra things that will require extra effort, but I believe will be worth it in the end to reassure your customers. We're going to have some form of social distancing, whether that's going to be 2 meters on 1.5 meters, we don't know yet. But you've got to understand that that creates a physical challenge with you with regards to positioning in the salon of your workstations, any reception chairs that you may still have. But apart from those things, and those have all been discussed many times, and you kind of think, well, how are we going to work around the chair, and how are we going to work in between the chairs? And okay, I've had some experience, no, not experience. My son-in-law's had his hair done in Germany yesterday, and they're already not complying with the regulations there, which is sad to see. But anyway, you've also got, and I put there, and it's important to think of, many salons have structural challenges. Many salons are in old buildings, small buildings, buildings with corridors, doors, whatever. So you've got to think about how you're going to manage the movement of people through those what I call pinch points in your salon. The first pinch point is the front door. How are you going to get people in and out? Some people have said, well, let's leave the door open because we're going to have to handle the handle. We're going to have to clean the handle. So all those sort of things. And I think there are going to be regulations. I saw something yesterday about the volume of air you've got to have flowing through your building. Or I don't know about you, Jen. I have no idea how to calculate the volume of the air flowing through my building. Have you?
No.
No. So I think, I don't know whether that means just leave the front door open or what. Do you remember the good old days when air conditioning was open the front door, open the back door, and the breeze would blow through?
Yeah.
That was the best we got. Anyway, it is important to think about those structural pinch points that you've got where you may be taking clients from one area of your salon into a washroom, or where they have to go into a cloakroom or things like that. And cloakrooms and toilets are a whole ball game, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, will we actually allow guests to use the toilets? How will we ensure they're cleaned after every guest? As a guest, if I was going into a washroom, I would want to have available in there things that I could use. You know, I shared in the group. I remember going once to a very high-end restaurant, and their loo had when you flushed the loo, a plastic seat cover spun round. You got a new seat cover. But I mean, I know we haven't got those, but I think guests will want to be able to know that a place is safe for them to enter. But remember those pinch points, how you're going to balletically dance around and work within these corridors and stairs and other things that many salons have. You also need to appreciate that social distancing will affect time. If we're going to split our guys into 2 shifts, we're going to have to allow time for them to get in, time between shifts. We're going to have time between customers for cleansing, all this sort of thing. So consider how all forms of social distancing are going to affect the timings of all your services within your salon. Many salons will now be thinking, do we do, does a stylist do a guest from start to finish? Do assistants get involved? Do other people put on colours? I don't know. I can't give you the answers to those. That's going to be for you to decide. But what I do know, I think customers are going to want as little contact with as few people as possible. Anyway, that's, again, a consideration. Okay, now let's think about your team. Any questions on that one so far?
No, we're good.
Okay. Either no one's listening, Jen, or I'm doing brilliant. One of the two. I'll claim the second.
Brilliant.
Sorry?
You're doing brilliant.
That's good. I like that. Right answer, Jen. Okay. So now we've got the safety of your team, because without your team, you don't have a business anyway. Now, just like the customer, this security and reassurance starts before they return to work. So you're going to have team members that are nervous to come back. I've already seen on some pages beauty therapists saying they don't want to go back. They certainly don't want to do facials. They don't want to do anything. And certainly in Germany, you've seen that barbers aren't allowed to do beard trims and things like that. Anything that's too intimate around the face. But your team are going to want to know that they're safe to come back to work. The thing that I hated about this woman in Texas that kept her salon open was, what about her team? If I was one of her team, because she must have made them go to work, if I was one of her team, I would be looking for another employer.
Yeah.
Now, we have a duty of care to our team, but there are times when we struggle to get new team members. People will remember how you treat them further down the line. You take care of your team now. You do everything you can for your team. You reassure them. You treasure them. They will value that. Remember, the people that are working for you are the ones that have been supported by the government. This is where stylists are going to realise that being employed does have its benefits. And I'm going to talk about that in a separate video that I'm going to make for stylists. I'm going to do a video for stylists to tell them they've got to do it. But actually, I'm going to share that with all the members of 365. Yeah. Is that what you just said, Jen?
Yeah. Can you share it on here afterwards?
Oh, I might do if you ask me nicely. Yeah.
Love you.
Okay. But I think how we treat our teams will stand us in good stead for the future. Of course, they've got to be aware of all the sanitization and PPP options. You must have the stuff. You've got to provide the stuff for them. You may even have to think about them using different clothes in the salon to when they go backwards and forwards to work. That could end up being an option. But there is also a two-way stretch with this. They have got a duty in that they must comply with these things as well. So it's important that you say to them that this is for them and the customer. But sometimes if we ask people to do things, if they don't get the whiff, if they don't understand why they should do it for them, sometimes they cut corners. They need to understand that all the sanitization that you put in place, all the PPP that you put in place is for the guests and for them. Their safety is just as important as your client's safety. So take care of them, but ensure that they do what they're supposed to do. Okay. Again, with the social distancing, think about how they work. Think about they interact. If you're going to split them into shifts, you're going to have time in the middle to change shifts. I have yet to see a team room where you could have 2 or 3 stylists in there separated by 2 meters and still have their lunch. So most team rooms, staff areas are quite cramped. Think about how you're going to manage that. I said yesterday when we did the Zoom meeting, Jen, I said to you, I'm a great believer in being the good guy. So if I'm going to have to say to my team, you can't use the team room, then maybe as the good guy, I'm going to make sure that they've got enough money to go out and get some lunch somewhere or go and sit somewhere or have somewhere. I don't know. But we need to do whatever we can to take care of them, true, and treasure them, and make sure that they observe social distancing. I saw a van yesterday morning when I was out on my walk. I saw a van of builders pull up outside a house because builders can go back to work now. These 4 guys in this van weren't observing social distancing. They obviously weren't 4 guys that lived together. Well, they didn't look like that. But so why have they suddenly abandoned that? None of them using masks. They think because they're mates they're safe. That is not the case. They could have brought a virus with them. So be careful. Just take care, people. So think about how you're going to use your time. Think about how you're going to structure your shifts and hours. This really is, we've always said to salons in the past, there are 24 hours in the day, and yet most salons only open 8. We're now going to have to think absolutely sideways. And what I do hope is that Boris Johnson thinks carefully about this, because he is going to have to allow us to change people's conditions of employment. He's going to have to make people be flexible. Otherwise, we could get stylists going, well, those aren't the hours I'm working. I'm not doing these hours. I'm not doing that. And we understand why they're doing it. And there are times when salons that have got a lot of part-time staff are going to be the ones that are challenged now, because those people that are part-time for a reason, because it suits their lives. So you could have issues with that. But I do hope that Boris makes it, he thinks about the fact that we are going to need to change people's conditions of employment, because all those regulations still apply, guys. We can't forget all that stuff. Our team are going to need help. They're going to be faced with heads that they've never seen before. You're going to have a stylist that's worked for you that's never dealt with an 2-inch regrowth. So suddenly they're going to have banding challenges. They're going to have heads that they're not used to dealing with. So if you are splitting your teams into shifts, the important thing here is to make sure you've got someone on each shift that has the skill and knowledge to be the font of knowledge for everybody on that team. Your team need to know that they can ask questions, seek help, and make sure that they've got the help there available to them. I was speaking to Sophia Hilton the other day. Oh, lovely story with that. I'll tell you when we're not online, Jen. She chased me. It was nice. I've been chased by Sophia. It's lovely. Anyway, sorry?
Someone's got to do it, that job.
Yeah, someone's got to do it. But I said to her, what a great opportunity for someone like her to share the education now that people need to deal with the challenges they're going to have. But all you salon owners that are listening, make sure your team have got someone that can help them, because they will be dealing with things that they've never done. And what I will say here and now, you're going to have people coming in that desperately want their hair coloured. You're also going to have people coming in that have done things to their hair that they won't necessarily tell you they've done. They're going to have people that will want their hair coloured, even though you need to do skin tests and compatibility tests. but they will want their hair done there and now. Don't do it. It's not often that I tell you what to do and what not to do. Please don't cut corners. Follow your skin test regulations. Do compatibility tests. Otherwise, those people that desperately want their hair done will still be the first people that will sue you if they suddenly have a breakout because you haven't skin tested. So please follow the guidelines. Don't go chasing the pound. It is not worth it. Your reputation will suffer. Okay, yourself. Remember to take care of yourself. I'm rattling on, Jen, and if you want me to stop, stop me. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going. Is that okay?
Yeah, you just keep going.
Okay. Safety of yourself. We sometimes forget ourselves. You are human too. I said earlier on that I am going to be apprehensive going back to work. I said to Jane, I'm enjoying working from home. I keep saying to her, it's maybe I'll retire now because I'm not, I'm getting used to being at home. She said, don't be stupid. She said, you're not at home doing nothing. You're at home working. What I'm liking is the fact that I'm not distracted by what goes on in an office. And I'm not a fan of sitting in an office, but I love the work that I do. That's why I carry on doing it. But we are human too, and we will be nervous. And somehow, who is there to reassure us? Who is there to take care of us? And maybe this is where we do that. It's in groups like this, groups like yours, groups like mine, groups like 365, where we take care of each other. We are human, and you are allowed to be frightened yourself. So take care of yourself, and make sure that you follow all the guides. Very easy for us to cut corners. Please don't do it. Take care of yourself. Follow all the options. Do any PPP. There's two reasons for this. A, you've got to take care of yourselves, but B, you have absolutely got to be a role model for your team. As soon as you start cutting corners, they will cut corners. As soon as you don't use a mask, I saw someone the other day on TV, because they weren't comfortable with the mask, they pulled it down off their nose to speak. And I'm thinking, God, what are you doing? You have got to be the role model to all your team. That's what I'm saying here. So make sure you follow all the guides. Same with the distancing. It's got to apply to you. Now, the challenge you've got here with social distancing is, as a salon owner, you have to understand that you are important to your team. Those of you that work in your salons may not understand how important you are to your team. I remember when I left my salons and stepped back and handed the running of the salons over to other people, I had terrible problems because I didn't realize how important my physical presence was to my team. Now, if you have shifts in your team, how are you going to ensure that your physical presence is shared with those teams? I'm not sure how you do it, but you have to make sure that if you say you've got a team A and a team B, and you're working in team A, you have to make sure that somehow, and I'm going to use the expression share the love, but I'm sure you know what I mean by that, Jen.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure that somehow, if you're in team A, you share the love with team B, so that those people feel just as valued, just as treasured, just as important. Now, if I take someone like yourself, you've got Chloe. So you've got yourself and Chloe. If you end up doing shifts, you can spread that. But not everyone's got a Chloe.
No.
Not everyone's got, when you had Nathan, not everyone's got a Nathan. Not everyone's got, you've got Ian and Mandy. Not everyone's got an Ian and Mandy. So they don't always have two people they can engage with. So you've got to make sure that somehow you share the love with all of your team. The safety of your relationships is crucial. You're going to be back into business. The first thing you need to understand is, and I certainly noticed with us at Salon Success, people are starting to place orders again. They don't know when they're going to be open, but they're starting to place orders, which is a great idea. Because one thing I do know is when the salons do go back into place, there may be limited stocks. If you think about it, a lot of stock hasn't been traveling around the world, so therefore isn't in the right place. Warehouses have been closed. I think we're saying to people that when we reopen, we will guarantee a delivery of 4 days. That may change. Whereas normally we get products to people within 24 hours, and I think we guarantee 72. But those of you that deal with us know that very rarely does it go over 1 day, 2 days. But we are saying to people, be patient with us. because some stocks are limited and deliveries may be slower. So plan for that. We have got into a world where we know we can access stuff quickly. I think one of the challenges that the government's been pilloried for not having resources. It's been pilloried for not having PPE. But what I do know is the way businesses work nowadays is because we can access stuff so quickly, businesses don't stockpile. I remember last year I was lucky enough to go around the Jaguar factory, and the parts that were needed for every single car they built were delivered something like 4 hours before the car started going on the production line. I remember the guy saying to me, those chairs, those seats there have arrived this morning for a car that's being built in 2 hours. So we've cut back on allowing long delivery times. Those of you that buy from Amazon have noticed Amazon aren't keeping to not their promise. They're not as fast as they used to be. Factor that in when you start reordering stuff. That's what I'm saying there. If you've got credit lines with companies, make sure that they're solid. I hope there's no one out there that has taken extended credit without asking for it. Most companies nowadays will be flexible, but communicate, please. Please don't assume, just communicate and people will be helpful. Those of you that are members of 365, you know that we've not taken subscriptions and we're not taking them in May. We will start again in June, hopefully, if we're back. If the world doesn't change and we're not back, who knows what will happen. But so most companies will be flexible. But when we go back to work, some of you may have overhanging debts. There may be bills that you haven't paid that will need paying. So be careful of that and make sure you talk to your suppliers. That is really important so that you keep your credit lines open because you may need them. What I'm going to say here about new relationships being worth considering is you will know that there are some companies that have supported you during this process. There are some manufacturers that have grabbed the pound and gone out there and sold, push stuff retail. There are salons that have done that. They've kind of broken the code of professionalism. And what I would say to you is make sure that the relationships you carry on are with the right people. Make sure you work with companies that have supported professionals during this downtime. It could be the right time to consider changing who you work with. And I'm not going to be any more specific of that. Those of you that know me know the companies that I work with, not just 365 and the brands that I work with. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm not touting for our brands. What I'm saying is, I think there are some companies out there that have been professional and there's some companies that aren't. There are companies that have supported you and companies that haven't. Those of you that understand the guidelines to greatness will know what I mean about balance. Those of you that haven't heard of the guidelines to greatness, it's unfortunate, but it's a code that we work to within 365 and Salon Success. But one of the things about guidelines to greatness is balance. A relationship's got to work for both of us. As soon as it becomes one-sided, that relationship will end. So I would say to you now, consider in the future who you work with, because you may want to change some of those relationships. The very last area here is safety of your business. You have to understand where you are now, absolutely where you are now. Financially, how strong are you? Are you technically solvent or not? Have you got more debt than you have cash? And probably the answer to that at the moment is yes. So think about where you are financially. You also seriously need to consider this. When we come back into the salon, are you going to have the same number of appointment slots available to sell? With social distancing and the time that you're going to have to allow for cleansing and sanitization and shift systems, how many appointment slots are you going to have to sell? Because certainly if we listen to Van, I can't remember his surname, Van, who spoke to Robert the other day, he said that they'd opened their salons back in America, or in the state that he was in, but they were dealing with 25% of the customers that they used to deal with previously. Now, how is that going to affect your business? If you think you're going to be opening the doors and taking as much money as you were before this, think again. Seriously, think again. You may all want to pack the clients in. Clients aren't going to want to be packed in. But I think with all the things we're going to have to do, we're not going to be able to do this. And do you remember what I said earlier on about guests have got to be, they've got to see that you're doing the right thing. So you won't be able to pack them in, and it won't be the right thing to pack them in. So you need to clearly understand how many appointment slots. And actually, Jen, you and I can have a conversation of this out of here. It's really made me think differently about utilization. I've been working on some new stuff on that, but we'll talk about that another day, another dollar. But actually, how many appointments do you need to sell to break even? Because you're going to be playing catch up. The other thing is, how will your average bill be effective? Those of you that are part of 365 will understand this is one of the key metrics that we look at in our business. This isn't what you charge for a haircut. It's what's your actual average per guest. Now, will that change when you go back or not? Those of you that have got a high color percentage already in your salon, although lots of color work will come in, that won't necessarily change your average income per guest. So think about what you think your average income per guest is going to be. And this last one is the thorny issue. Because you need to think about your pricing. And some people are scared of raising their prices. Some people are happily raising their prices. But as I said before, you are going back to a world where all of your team are now going to be earning a new minimum wage and living wage. You're going to have extra costs involved in PPE. You're going to have possibly less clients that you're able to serve. Think about how this will affect your income and consider your pricing. I am not going to sit here and tell you what to do. That is not my role. Some of you will have got pricing in place that is absolutely spot on. Some of you have got pricing in place that was wrong before we went into this, that was bonkers before we went into this. Those of you that are members of 365 have know, I've shared with you pricing calculator tools. And I know some of the members have gone, Jesus, my pricing's all over the place and up the wall and doesn't make sense. But you do seriously need to consider what your prices are going to be when you come out of this. Now, some people have said to me, and I absolutely get this, I don't want to sound like a heartless son of a bitch here. There are people that are going to be, short of money when they come out of this. But what I will say is most of the clients that are coming into you, most of the clients that certainly 365 salons deal with, aren't necessarily going to be short of money because they've been supported during this crisis. People that have been getting furlough payments, 80% of their normal money, net of tax, staying at home, not going out, they're actually not going to be short of money. I shared with members the other day, and you will have seen this, Jen, a survey in the press about people, and I think it was something like 59 or 60% of the population has actually seen their net income go up during this period because they haven't been spending. So I think this fear of everybody being broke, yes, and don't get me wrong, there are people out there suffering terribly, absolutely, and I get that. But can we solve that? I'm not sure that we can, because your business has got to run and make money. But I don't think it's necessarily as bad out there as we think it is. And please, if there's someone listening to this that has been really affected financially, my heart goes out to you. And I'm not trying to be heartless. But what I do know is that you have a business to run. And you know that you have to run business on facts and not emotion, don't you, Jem?
Absolutely. One of my biggest ever takeaways from you. Very first day I met you, fact, not emotion. It's stuck with me the rest of my business life.
Absolutely. And you hear me in that when we do management masterclass. I say to people, if you're ever going to work with me, get used to the fact that you can't say the word about, roughly, I think to me. That's no good. You don't run a business on about and I think and roughly. You run a business on facts.
Yeah.
Okay. How much debt have you got? Because you are going to have to pay this back. Please don't forget that there's going to be loans you have to repay. So how will you service that debt long term? If you had a very, very skinny profit margin before you went into this, how are you going to get more profit out of your business to repay the loans that you will have to repay when the day of reckoning comes? Okay, because there were heavy loans taken out there. So what's your plan for your profits in the future? You must absolutely understand how your business makes profit. Hairdressers are rubbish at this, as you know, Jen. But we really need to get our brains around understanding the profit margins in our business. The last thing I put on here is what's your plan for your brand long term? How you behave coming out of this, how you've behaved during it, and where you sit in the marketplace. And what you have been talking about, Jen, is all about brand. And you and I both know this whole concept of branding in hairdressing. Hairdressers struggle with it, don't they?
Yeah.
They don't quite understand. What we don't mean is the logo above your door. That's not your brand. The brand is what you stand for and what values you have and where you position yourself and the customers that you work with and the suits that you choose and all that sort of stuff. So what is your plan for your brand long term? Because be wary of behaving when you come out of this that is in any way a contradiction of what you want to be long term. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because that's what you will be remembered for.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So think carefully about your brand, and that's the last one, Jen. And you and I know if you haven't got a plan, was it fail to plan, plan to fail. So you must have a plan. And I know there are people now running around now because they've been so busy working in the gym and doing whatever else, and they're suddenly starting to realise that they've got to get this shit together. You've had 7 weeks to get this shit together. So if it's not together now, don't ask for sympathy.
Because that's an emotion, it's not fact. Ken's not good with
that. Correct. Don't work with me, that one.
Well, and you're back. Can you see yourself now on the screen?
No, I can't see myself now. Hold on. Yeah, I can. That's it. Oh, that worked, didn't it?
I'm loving this. Natalie's put join 365, and then she's put he's not kick-ass Ken for nothing.
there are times. Someone sent me an email yesterday, and sometimes you read between the lines, and they'd ask me questions, and then they told me what they were going to do, and between the lines, I could read that there was a fear.
Yeah,
there was a fear. So they kind of knew what they should do, but there was a fear of doing it. So I very politely said, there are some times when my role is to advise you. Sometimes there's times when my role is to nudge you, and there are times when my role is to kick your ass. Okay. And those of you that have worked with me over the years know that there are times when I go, do you know what? Kick your ass.
that's scary.
Well, yeah, it's not often I get angry, is it, Jen? But when I do, you know it.
No. And you get angry, you get disappointed, and that's the worst feeling. When Ken's disappointed in you, you're like, oh shit.
But if you think of some of the things that you have done over the years in your business, Jen, when you've been terrified, and I've said, it's not me that all this font of information has come from. The stuff that I share with people is the stuff that I learned. I joined 365 30 years ago. The club's been going 35 years. It's not me being the smart ass. It's me sharing stuff that I've used. So I share it with you. And if I share something with you that I know worked for me and I know worked for someone else, it's not like just a bonkers idea. You and I have seen the world is full of experts at the moment, and some of them are talking absolute. Yeah. Okay. So what we're talking about here is stuff that we know works. So I know that when I'm kicking someone's ass, they're safe. And I only, I look at your journey and where you went to and what you've achieved. And we all need people to carry us through this journey. Yeah, I love it. I still love it. I still love what we do, Jen.
There's a couple of questions. Me too. Sandy says, hi guys, I work completely on my own and appointment only, so surely I can go back when salon's open. I already have a strategy in place for cleanliness, so yeah. It's not.
Yeah, that little flight, Sandy's popped up on my feed. I don't know you, Sandy, sadly, but I do love your little icon, whatever that is. But yes, actually, talking about brand, isn't it funny? So I don't know Sandy. I don't believe I may, and if I do, I apologise. But I love that little icon. Isn't it funny how I now associate that icon with Sandy. Yeah, you'll find that if you're on your own and you run by appointments. When you say surely I can go back to work, I wouldn't see why not. Does Sandy mean that she's a mobile or a freelancer?
I don't.
Because if you think of her words, surely when Salon opens, I can go back to work. Now, if she was in a salon, then she wouldn't be answering that question. So she may be freelance. Now, whether there are going to be different rules and regulations for freelance, we don't know yet, Sandy. So I'm kind of assuming, reading between the lines, that you're not in a salon. Otherwise, that question would be framed differently. So we don't know yet, Sandy. You would think it would make sense, but we don't know. The challenge with anyone freelancing is that you can carry things.
Yeah.
And when you think about how they've stopped us moving within groups, but once people are out there, we don't know. We'll have to wait and see, Sandy, but keep the icon going. I love it.
Louise, I'm loving all this advice. It's helped me so much through this time. Thank you, Jen and Ken. You're welcome.
You are so welcome. We love giving it. We love doing it. We love helping people.
Dawn's got a great point here. Card machine companies have put their percentage up as well. Something we need to consider.
Now, you see, there's an interesting one. Why would a card machine need to put its percentage rate up? I don't get that. So when we're talking about consider the people that help you and don't help you, to me, that smacks a little bit of profiteering when they've got no extra costs. I can't see how this has affected the handling fee of a card company, but who knows? I wouldn't like that. I'd be looking around.
Well, I guess they're not in business at the moment as much as they would be.
True.
So their profits have gone down, but yeah.
I don't know. One thing I would say with this, and we just a little point there, you've got to have contact lists. If you've not all got contact lists, get it. All these little whatever you can do. And actually, I think customers are going to expect to see us taking payments at a workstation as opposed to at a desk.
Yeah.
Just think about the points of contact. The less points of contact, the better. So I would take appointments, I would rebook, I would do as much as I can at the styling station as opposed to taking people to desks. Yeah. Only if that's practical. But if you haven't got contact lists, then get on that today, because no one's going to want to be passing money around.
Yeah.
And remember, interestingly, we had this the other day on Darren Fowler.
Wine with Ken and Darren. I had to pause you and go and pour a glass of wine because I felt like I was missing out.
Yeah, it was nice, wasn't it? It was nice to talk to Darren. If you're going to put tips through your credit card machines, be careful. Okay, just be careful. I'm not going to get involved in that. Darren took them, and and I said, well, just be careful. Because there is an issue with becoming a trunk master and therefore having to take tax and national insurance. I'm not going to get involved in that one.
Yeah.
Just be careful.
We don't. Yeah, we don't. So Sandy works from home, her home, but she also goes into disabled homes.
Sandy, you're putting yourself in lots of situations there. Certainly with the care homes seem to be challenging environments to go into. So all I would say to you, Sandy, is just take every care that you can. Think about what I said, protect yourself. I understand that you'll be wanting to go out there and taking care of the customers that need you and have missed you. Please don't forget you. take care of yourself. You will want to do as much as you can. Don't risk your own health and well-being. It's not worth it, darling.
No, we don't want that, do we? Jackie, I know lots of home hairdressers are still working. Yep.
They're actually ashamed of themselves. I wish that hopefully you've all seen that that broadcast on the BBC. If any of you haven't seen the broadcast on the BBC, go to 365 Salon Education, which is our open Facebook page, and I recorded the whole interview on there. Go and see it. Who I just wish that reporter was made to let the police know who those people were that were taking appointments. Not only were they working and breaking, they were charging people double to have their hair cut. It was
and just openly doing it, like, well,
absolutely
the environment, so we're charging double.
You know, and coming through the back. Well, I'll be cutting you in the kitchen. Oh, just and then Jen, this is what annoys me, Jen. You and I have known for years we've struggled at people not taking hairdressers seriously as a profession, and then those buggers do that, and we wonder why people don't take us seriously.
Yeah,
absolutely ridiculous behaviour.
Yeah,
should be ashamed of themselves.
TV as well.
Yeah.
Some of the guys are saying should be able to negotiate with card companies now.
Yeah.
I have.
If you don't ask, you don't get. Seriously, if you don't ask, you don't get. Just like with phone companies, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Absolutely. I have self-employed girls. Do I have to provide PPE for them too?
Well, okay, big issues there. Self-employed people are self-employed. So no, you don't, because they don't work for you. And that's it. I mean, there are lots of things that you could do, but you want to be careful with that, because if you're seen to provide PPE for people that don't work for you, then technically that could be interpreted as them working for you. Why would you do this for people that don't work for you? So no, I would say here, if they're self-employed, they have to provide all their own equipment. Otherwise, they're not self-employed. And this is one of the whole another issue with self-employment. There's so much of this quasi self-employment out there. If someone is self-employed, it's their responsibility, their insurance, their clients. Those clients are not yours. Those guests are their guests. They're self-employed.
Yeah. I was going to say something then, but it's completely gone. So what about, obviously it's your salon, so I'm just thinking about guys that have got self-employed people out there, and we've got another question coming in about it, so I'm just going to ask.
I mean, what I would say is that if they don't provide that, they shouldn't be allowed back into your premises.
Yeah, that was my point. You need to have a policy.
That's a different issue, you know, because they as part of their contract with you, they should be working in, because they are responsible for their clients from insurance point of view and health and safety point of view. They are responsible for their clients. Then they also have a responsibility to you that they take of their clients in the right way. Can you see the chain here? So if they don't do this, then I believe you shouldn't be allowed to have them back in their salon, because presumably in your contract with them somewhere, and hopefully you've got one, there will be a clause that says they have to comply with all these regulations. We're going to get all this stuff coming out of the woodwork now, Jen, aren't we? People that don't have agreements, don't have contracts. But do you know what? We're not fans of self-employment. And if a self-employed person out there hasn't got all the correct implements in place, am I sympathetic? Sadly, I'm not. You know, it's important that the good guys get it right. So yeah, interesting stuff there going to come out of that one.
Yeah, and I think
because what the customers have got, what you've got to understand is those customers coming into your salon should also know that that person is self-employed. So that customer doesn't have the relationship with you; they have the relationship with the stylist. Now, if your customers aren't aware those stylists are self-employed, then you're already breaching all this stuff.
Yeah, and what Ken's saying is, you know, let's take payment for instance. If you've got a self-employed person in your salon, then they have to have their own credit card machine that has their name on it. You can't put payments through. Say Obsession, say if all my team were self-employed, I can't take a payment through that says Obsessions on the receipt, because you have to make the client understand they're not paying me, they will be paying my self-employed staff. So Liam, yes, you give a huge percentage, but you are not employed, and you have to make that 100% understandable to everybody that comes into that salon.
I just want to understand that I understand Liam's question there.
Yeah.
It says, do you know Liam, Jen?
Yeah, we met. Liam works in Devon. We met a long time ago at an event.
Okay, so Liam is self-employed.
Yeah.
What he's saying is, but he gives a huge percentage. Okay. Now, the percentage that he pays to whatever salon he works in his agreement with that company, whoever he's renting space from, and I've got to be really careful about the words I use here, there must be something in his agreement that would cover things like this. So he needs to understand whether his percentage includes PPE, because there's going to be a big cost involved with this stuff.
Yeah.
And we've never gone through this before.
So he's saying, my salon has been good in providing it as far as I'm aware, but they shouldn't be, because it's like hairbrushes and things. You know, your salon shouldn't be giving you hairbrushes and tools because you're self-employed. And the minute they provide you with tools, the government deem you as employed. So if you're unclear, I think you really need to go to the government website and really, really read up on this stuff, so that you're clear moving back into that salon what you are responsible for and what they are responsible for, and how to abide by the law and the guidelines.
Yeah, it's great that they may be very kind and provide it for you, Liam, which is very nice of them, but actually they're taking a risk in doing it, because they could breach employment regulations. So
yeah, and he's saying his boss is very lovely. I'm sure she is.
I'm sure she is, but she needs to be careful how lovely she is, because she's actually there's something wrong there in his sentence. Read it carefully. Yes, think it is. As said, boss is very good. He's not that person. He's not his boss.
No.
You see, we get this whole terminology. He's not the boss. Liam is the boss. He's self-employed. There's a whole disconnect here.
Yeah, but I think that's the industry has bred that. I think it's become the norm.
It has, but it's. I think when we come out of this, because self-employed stylists haven't had any, or certainly haven't had the same support, they haven't had furlough payments. I think people are going to realise that. And actually, if you think about this, when you come out of this, that person shouldn't be providing PPP for that stylist. So, now these self-employed stylists should be providing all their own PPE. People are going to start thinking about self-employment. And actually, we have our feelings on this, and this is not the place to discuss it.
No. Else we'll be here for the next 6 weeks.
Correct.
We'll be down a rabbit hole and then down another one. Right. Natalie's got it absolutely bang on. They're your landlord.
Absolutely, Nat. Spot on.
Brilliant.
Have you seen the time, Jen?
I know. And yet everyone's still online. So I think we should just keep going. I'm joking. Ken's got the sun trap out in the back garden to get to. I would never do that.
Yeah, it's a break.
Right, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much. I love having you on as always. It brightens up my day seeing your little face.
Good, glad. Be nice to see you again, wouldn't it?
Oh my God, I can't wait. I'm literally just going to run into the office and give everyone a, well, are we going to be allowed to hug?
I don't know. See, we could go back to work and we won't be able to give people a hug. What's that going to be like? Oh, I don't care. It's going to be madness.
And we're going to be in the new offices.
Yeah, I know. I don't know when they're going to allow me back.
Well, you're on the age scale, so you'll be
I know. 68. I'm on the cusp. They might never let me back, Jen.
No, we'll have to do Zoom calls for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Well, lovely chatting to you. Thank you for giving us
a pleasure.
And lots of
Take
love.
care, everybody.
See you soon. Bye, everyone. Have a good
Bye
day.
bye.